David here. I want to do a Fusion 360 tutorial on how to prepare a model like this, a scan model of the natural world. You see a scan pumpkin here. How to prepare this model for 3D printing. So there's a couple things that need to do to get this ready to be 3D printed. Now, I got this image or this model from the KIRI Engine app. You can download it on your phone. You take multiple pictures of the object of question, and it processes those images in a process called photogrammetry, and then it makes a 3D model. So this is a way to directly get a natural form into a 3D model, and that can then be prepared for 3D printing. So to start off with 3D printing, I'm just going to clear the plate here. I just want to start fresh. So what I'm going to do is now just open. I'm going to open the 3D model that I got directly from the KIRI Engine app. This is an object file. And this created a new file here. So I'll just close out that other one. And what we see here is sometimes it's not oriented right. We want the pumpkin to be facing up to be 3D printed correctly, but now it's not facing right. So one of the first things I will do is to move it. So for that, I'm going to go to the mesh menu because this is actually a mesh. You can see the mesh icon here. And I'm going to go modify, move. So now I will select the object and now I can move it. So the first movement, I'm going to rotate it so it's about flat. And I can click the right plane and say, oh, it looks off kilter. So I'll bring that up. I'm just going to check that the other planes look level. So these other planes look level. That's good. Now I'm going to push OK. So now I have this mesh and now it's oriented where the pumpkin is facing. Now I want to remove the bottom part of this mesh. I just want to isolate the pumpkin. So for that, I'm going to say modify. I'm going to do something called plane cut. I'm going to select the body and then I'll select the plane. First, I'll select the bottom plane. Now, as I pull it up, it cuts everything below it. So that looks good. Press OK, and now that's removed everything. Now there's this other object here that I want to remove. So let's do another plane cut. We'll say modify plane cut, select the body. Now for this cut plane, I'm going to select the front. Now you see what happens here is as I try to cut object aside, it also cuts the pumpkin. So one way to get around this is to do this flip function. The flip function cuts the object from the other way. Now instead of removing the pumpkin, I'll just remove the object here. So push OK, and now I've just isolated the pumpkin. Now I do want to note there's this warning sign here, which means the mesh is not closed. So I do want to close mesh as I go to a body. So I'll select this. And if you select that warning sign, it brings you up to the repair menu. From here, there's different ways to repair. I'm going to do the first method, which is close holes. As I push OK, now that's closed the holes. Now this is closed on the bottom, and it's a good mesh to convert to a body. Now to convert the mesh to a body, you go modify and then convert mesh. You see it says converts mesh body to a solid. And so this solid is essential for being able to be 3D printed. Now we have a solid. And this is as much as we needed to do in Fusion 360 is just get that mesh into a solid, isolating the object and getting it into a solid. So from here, I'm going to need to save before I can export. I'm going to say 3D model and now export. And the Fusion file type, the .f3d, doesn't work on slicer programs. So that's a Fusion specific file. So we should use another file type like the 3mf or the object file. I'll use the 3mf. So now I've export that. So now I'm going to open up Bambu Studio, which is a slicer. There's lots of different slicer applications, and this prepares the model for 3D printing. So now I've just opened up Bambu Studio. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the object. And we have this 3D model that I just created. Now when I add the object, you see it's really, really small. So one way to change that is once you select it, you can go to the scale. And when you have the scale, you pull it and it gets bigger. I think that looks good. So there's also, of course, all the filament settings and everything else, all the other settings with the slicer. I'll just keep it simple for now and keep it like this, and then say slice plate. And so when you slice a plate, that's now slice this object. So now we see that this would take 17 minutes, and it's just now sliced. This scanned natural pumpkin has now been prepared and now can be printed by a 3D printer. So you can go to print plate. You can also go to file, export, and export the G code, put that on a thumb drive and print it somewhere else. So thanks for tuning in and see you next time. Bye now.